what could it be if you have frothy green discharge? Hello and welcome to the Midwife Says. My name is Melanie and I am almost a licensed midwife in the state of Florida. Here I share evidence-based facts about women's health, pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that I feel like everybody with a vagina should be well educated on, and that is vaginal discharge. I'm going to discuss the normal types of vaginal discharge, abnormal types of vaginal discharge, and when you should get treatment. If you have been to my channel before, you will notice that this is a completely different setup than what I've been doing. So I'm going to take a second and talk about that. In my videos before, I have been using AI to help me create videos to maintain my personal privacy and also for a lack of time, because as of today, I don't make a single penny off of YouTube. So juggling things like a family and a job and all of that gives me very limited time to work on YouTube videos. However, I recently was watching YouTube myself and came across a video that was a topic that I've been diving into a lot and very, very interested in, and the content of this video was actually fantastic. However, the video itself was made using AI, and the person on the video was a AI copy of the creator, and I could not even focus. I could not focus on the content of the video at all because I was so distracted by the AI, and that just got me thinking, I can't do AI on my videos. As much as I do appreciate the filter of privacy that it gives me as a person and the flexibility that it gives me to be able to just speak into my phone and then let a whole video be created, it's not the type of quality that I want to show up here with. And so here we are, raw, real, and authentic. No AI, this is just me. So thank you and welcome back to this completely new and revamped style. And if this is your first time, welcome. So let's get into the content. So I have my notes over here. Again, all the information that I share is always evidence-based, backed by research. So if you see me glance over here, I'm looking at my notes. So before I start talking about the discharge directly, I want to just preface this video by saying that if you feel like something is abnormal, especially if you are pregnant, please see your provider. Any type of vaginal infection during pregnancy can lead to preterm labor or miscarriage. Okay, so with that being said, let's start off simple and let's talk about the types of normal vaginal discharge. The first one being your everyday discharge. This is the discharge that you might see in your underwear. It's kind of yellowy. Usually it's not very copious. You see it in very scant amounts. And this is our just typical day-to-day discharge. It's very normal. The vagina is a self-cleaning organ. So the vagina is made to create discharge because that discharge flushes out bacteria. A vagina that is completely lacking discharge is out of balance in some way. So discharge is healthy and normal. You should be having discharge, and the discharge you see spotting in your underwear on a day-to-day basis is normal. The next type of normal discharge I want to talk about is pre-ovulation discharge. This is the discharge that happens right before and during ovulation. I'll do a whole separate video talking about the phases of our cycle, which is our ovulatory phases, our uterine phases. So that's the luteal phase, the menstrual phase, the follicular phase, ovulatory, all of those things. So I'll do a separate video on that. But when you ovulate, so when the egg is released from the ovary and goes down the fallopian tubes to be able to be fertilized, the vagina changes the discharge. This is so that it creates a more favorable environment for sperm to live in, increasing the chances of becoming pregnant. So this discharge is egg white in texture and color. It can be a creamy white as well. It's much, much more copious than in other times of your cycle. So again, this is very, very normal, usually doesn't really have a smell. There's no other symptoms associated with this. It's only the change in amount and color and texture of the discharge. So when we say egg white texture, what does that mean? That means if you were to put the discharge in between your fingers and go like this, it would stretch. It wouldn't just be slippery. So that's what that means when people say egg white discharge. That's what they're talking about. And then the last type of normal discharge I want to talk about, which is more of an absence of discharge, is after you've had your period. So after you've had your period, you might notice that you are. So now moving on to abnormal or potentially pathological discharge. The first two types I'm going to talk about are the most common. And the first one is vulvovaginal candidiasis, or a yeast infection. So yeast infections are very, very common. They are not a STD or STI, and this is the result of a out of balance vaginal pH. This can happen from birth control. This can happen from using soap, sitting in a very soapy bath. This can happen from antibiotic use or having intercourse with someone who has a yeast infection as well. So the discharge that comes with a yeast infection is pretty unmistakable. It's usually odorless, and it is that thick cottage cheese-like discharge. It looks like clumps of white substance in your underwear. It sometimes comes with burning with urination, although that's not a key symptom, and you will experience almost like a tickling kind of burning sensation vaginally. So yeast infections are important to get treated because they will not go away on their own. They just tend to get worse and worse. Natural supplements for yeast infections include probiotics, oral or vaginal, and boric acid suppositories. If you have a severe yeast infection or recurring yeast infections, then you should do a either over-the-counter treatment like Monistat, or you can do a pill prescribed by your provider of usually fluconazole, which is an antifungal. Monistat as well as an antifungal, and if you're pregnant, the 7-day regimen is what is safe for you. Moving on to bacterial vaginosis. Bacterial vaginosis is as well not an STD or STI. The discharge that you get with bacterial vaginosis is a gray, slimy, kind of a very watery discharge. The key symptoms of bacterial vaginosis, aside from the discharge, is burning with urination and a very, very, very pungent fishy odor. This odor is so pungent that it is what we rely on outside of using a microscope to diagnose bacterial vaginosis. It's called the whiff test. It's a real thing. Look it up, I promise. But that is one of the diagnostic processes for bacterial vaginosis. So if you're having gray, slippery discharge, you notice a foul smell, there's burning when you pee, it's probably bacterial vaginosis. And so it's very important if you do have bacterial vaginosis to get treated. Untreated bacterial vaginosis can result in pelvic inflammatory disease. Treatment for bacterial vaginosis is either clindamycin, which is an antibiotic, or metronidazole, which is an antifungal, but ask your provider what they recommend for you. Again, if you are pregnant, it is extremely important to get these things taken care of, as well as a UTI, which is not associated with any type of vaginal discharge, so I'm not going to go over it in this video, but if you have any symptoms of UTI, BV, or a yeast infection, it's very important to get it taken care of and take it seriously, because all of them, even though they are very normal, can cause preterm labor and miscarriage. So let's talk about one that is a little less discussed and a little bit less known, and that is, what could it be if you have frothy green discharge? Frothy green discharge is the result of Trichomoniasis vaginalis. This is an STD. This is transferred only by sexual intercourse, and this results in burning with urination and frothy green discharge. So as with all of the other types of abnormal discharge we discussed, this is very important to get treated at all times, but especially if you're pregnant. And if you do have trich and you do not treat it, it increases your risk of becoming infected with HIV. It's also important to note that 70% of people who have trich don't have symptoms, and men are less likely to have symptoms than women. So just be sure to be mindful of your sexual health, be mindful of the STD status of any partners that you have had, and if you do feel off in any, you can even go down to your local health department and ask for testing on this. It's a good idea to even do this regularly or anytime that you have had intercourse with a new partner. And I wanted to just discuss quickly which infections are important for partners to get treated and which ones are not. So if you have a yeast infection, it is important that any intimate partners you have get treated for yeast infections, as well as those can be passed back and forth. As well, trich is important to get treated by both partners or all partners so that that does not continue to get treated back and forth. As of right now, the evidence suggests that if you are a female and you have a male partner, that the male partner does not need to get treated for bacterial vaginosis. So if you are a female partner and you have another female partner, then that partner should get treated for bacterial vaginosis. If you would like a deeper dive on any of these types of vaginal discharge or vaginal infections, please let me know in the comments below. I read every single one of them, and answering your questions is my absolute passion. So there you have it, the most common types of vaginal discharge, what's normal, what's not, what the common treatment is. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me today. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.